All right, so...
So how you been?
I've been all right, you know. I'm sorry. I guess you went with something more elaborate after being gone for almost 4 months. No, fine. Ups and downs, but mostly things are good. Finally, ish. You know, who knows what's coming around the corner? But at this exact moment in time, not bad.
Awesome.
I'll take not bad. You know, sometimes, so that's good.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what has changed since you left. Like, have we done anything significant on the podcast?
I moved.
Oh.
Austin.
That's not podcast related.
No, but I did. It was
you related.
It was important to me.
Okay. Ignore me while I fiddle with myself, basically.
My prostate felt a little funny today.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that I'm relapsing. Or, you know, if it's not the same thing, just being reinfected.
That sucks.
But it might also be gas.
Well, we can only hope that you're just extremely gassy, Johnny.
You know what? There's not a lot of times in my life where I'm crossing my fingers going like, geez, I really hope I'm gassy.
Yeah.
But today is one of those days, man.
Okay. Well, good. Well, I'm crossing my fingers and I'm crossing my toes, and I'm hoping that you just have some sort of horrible ass explosions coming up, and that's the extent of the damage.
That would make my day were it the case.
Okay.
Ah, jeez.
By the way, Austin, you may be tempted to use horrible ass explosions as the title, but I highly recommend Return of the King as the title of this episode. But of course, you could. I'm just trying to help you out because I know that once this is over, you gotta like, oh, what am I gonna call this? Should I, is Scrotal Screwdriver gonna get by Holly this time? So just throwing out Return of the King. I mean, you can do something goofy like Smurf Genocide, but just.
I've been thinking here. The only significant thing I think you missed was the Bonecraft Bonetown thing.
That was pretty legendary.
I must have missed that one. What was that?
Shameful. Oh. Shameful is what that one was.
Basically, we just talked / looked at porn for like 10 minutes on air.
Well, we can do that.
Not in Britain.
What?
Well,
what does
sorry,
that mean?
this is getting topical.
Okay.
Did you guys not hear about that?
What's going on in Britain and porn?
David Cameron wants to install a giant country-sized filter of porn across Great Britain so that you can't, all online porn will get blocked out unless you go to the government and are like, yes, I would like to see some porn, please. And then they take you off the filter.
I guess you have to go to them, cap in hand, and it's all like Oliver and shit.
Please, sir, I want some bone.
Right. That's not going to happen. That's number one. It's just everyone wants to do something stupid and crazy when it comes to porn and censorship, and then everyone shouts them down and masturbates at the same time. This always happens in our country. I'm sure in Canada at some point, definitely in Britain, everywhere. But nah, the porn will never go away. It's too pervasive and good also.
I'm dead serious. They're going for it. It's not, they're not something where they're like, oh, well, maybe. It's like they've already announced it.
Well, I think so. There's no way it's going to pass through their shouting matches that they call Parliament. At some point someone's going to say nope, and then there will be porn again. And wait, how far along is this? Because why have I not heard about the porn?
Just today, David Cameron announced it.
He's the guy who directed Aliens, right? Sorry. No, obviously I'm thinking.
No, I believe he guest starred in Love Actually. I believe.
No, I'm sorry. I'm obviously thinking about David Carradine.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another hair-raising episode of the End of Days podcast. And I am sorry to report that the end of days are finally upon us. recent portents, such as the birth of the Antichrist, also known as the son of Prince William and Duchess Kate Middleton. News just came over the wire that it is now roaming the world and eating people's souls. The news that Britain is going to be locking out all pornography from its citizens has just come to us as well, and I am sorry to report that the dead walk, as evidenced by the return of long-standing companion, contributor, and now eater of brains, Leon Thomas. Ladies and gentlemen, Gravity Bone is back.
And apparently I'm here to just eat everybody's brains and be the third sign of the apocalypse. But there's still like 4 left. We have time to do like 1 podcast before that shit happens.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that it's, brown trousers time right now, but everybody should at least be feeling a little uneasy at this point in time.
Yeah, well, the end is nigh, but it's not really nigh. It's like half nigh.
The worldwide famine is notoriously tardy.
Yeah, what the hell?
The end is a halfie right now. It's.
Oh, jeez. All right.
So tell me, Leon.
Yeah.
Recently returning to the living, do you eat brains to gain people's power, or is it a texture taste thing?
Actually, it's like in Warm Bodies, where I eat the brains to feel human again and see fireworks and like live vicariously through things. I'm just waiting for my heart to start beating again, to be saved by the power of love. And then everything sort of ends undramatically. I'm now just talking about the movie. Yeah, it's more like that than texture, I think. I mean, you can eat almost anything and texture of brains, but I want the memories. I want to live vicariously through people's lives. I made myself a little sad there.
So it's more that than, like, say, My Boyfriend's Back, where you eat the brains to stop from falling apart.
Wow, what a reference.
For years and years, I thought that My Boyfriend's Back was a movie that I imagined.
That was a thing, and I've actually seen it. I rented that movie. I don't know why I did that, but I did.
It was one of these things where, like, nobody I knew had seen it. I caught it like years ago on the Super Channel or whatever it was, which was like the Canadian movie channel back in like the 80s and 90s and things like that. I caught it on Super Channel one day, and I was like, wow, that was a thing, that movie. But like nobody I ever spoke to had ever seen this movie or ever heard of this movie, and I was just like, God, did I hallucinate that movie? And I thought I did for like years. Until the internet. And then the internet came up, and I was like, oh my God, it was a thing!
The internet will always tell you if something is a thing or not a thing.
Yep. It's pretty good at distinguishing things and stuff.
Yeah. It's basically what it's for, that and pissing off the British.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Nice to see that we just drop right back into the old
robot
there.
Just the robo, the old robo.
Did you get robo again?
You're so robo, Johnny.
Johnny say, come with me or there'll be trouble.
Come with me or there'll be trouble.
That's gone now. Damn it. We got to time this better. But next time say, I can't let you do that, Dave.
All right. I'll see if I can remember that. Come with me if you want to live.
Well, that's pretty good.
All right.
Okay.
So, yeah, big news. And I'm going to announce it again. Myself, Johnny Maloney, and my regular co-host, Austin Yorsky, have been rejoined by Gravity Bone himself, Leon Thomas. Welcome back to the show, Leon.
Yeah, it feels tepid to be back. No, it's good. I'm glad to be back, if only for a week or so. Well, why am I saying or so? I am here for an hour and a half before I leave the call suddenly and say enough is enough. So.
I give you about 45 minutes before you remember why you left in the first place.
Oh, geez. But yes, I am back, and I'm here to talk about video games, apparently, because I've played them. So I'll talk about video games I've been playing. I can talk about video game news as I've been kind of following it. So we'll see what happens there.
This is exciting. Where do you guys want to start?
Well, I'm just a special guest right now. You guys are the co-hosts, so you take the lead there.
Don't make me decide anything.
All right, fine. Okay.
Austin doesn't want any responsibility except naming the episode.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And doing the Photoshop. Seeing what horrible 1980s song he can fit into this one.
You started that one.
Hey, I wasn't the one that put it in.
Well, don't reference things, and I won't add them to the podcast.
Okay. I won't. Or will I? I probably will.
Leon, do you know what I did last episode?
No, I stopped paying attention to your shit. I just couldn't. I couldn't handle it. No. What did you do? Tell me.
Our shit's pretty top tier. I rickrolled the end of the podcast.
Oh.
Like someone who just got out of a time capsule from 10 years ago.
Good job.
So that was a low point for this show. I'm pretty excited to say.
Wait, that was the low point?
A low point.
Okay.
There's a lot of points.
We're constantly finding new ways to drop the bar even more subterranean.
Yeah. Finding new depths to sink to, and then holes to dig. Okay. But why don't we move on to news? We'll move on to news, and a story I know that's very near and dear to a lot of our listeners, and indeed gamers everywhere, their hearts. Atlas. Now, Austin, I know that you probably particularly have a vested interest in this story. Is that right? I think you're a fan of Atlas, and what I say goes.
I am, and I just recorded a thing with Sean. It's on the site now, where we talked about it for like half an hour. So I don't know how much I have to add to the story, but yes.
So we're still getting Persona games, right?
Who knows?
Oh.
Everything's in flux right now. Persona 5 is supposedly in pre-production, but we haven't heard anything from it since then. And, if Index sells Atlas to someone who doesn't have any interest in continuing that franchise, it could stop. I don't see why they would. Why would you buy a company and discontinue their most popular and lucrative series? It doesn't make any sense, but it could happen.
It better continue. I mean, where else am I going to go for an endless staircase of boredom? I joke, but I don't. I played Persona 3, and I said just like that, and that was the end of it. I know. Apparently, it's much more popular than I'm giving it credit, and apparently Persona 4 is even better or something.
Yeah, and they're making there's an anime of Persona 4, and they're making a Persona 3 movie, so it's a pretty big deal. If you don't like dungeon crawlers, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So.
But you don't, games.
But you don't just dungeon crawl. You also do homework and form brief relationships with people. This
is sounding more and more like The Sims.
I'd much rather play The Sims. At least I can just off all my characters when they begin to annoy me. With this, it's like an endless slog for hours and hours and hours. But I'm pissing people off right now, I'm sure.
Leon just comes out of retirement to just start shitting on people's hopes and dreams.
You know what else sucks? Portal and Braid. No, it's just.
I think Braid's overrated. I'll even jump on that one.
No, I kid. I do like Braid. I mean, almost anything can be overrated. So I'll say maybe it is overrated. But I liked it well enough, and I certainly like Portal. The good thing about Braid and Portal is that even if you're not that as crazy about it as some, you can finish it in a few hours. I mean, both of them. So it's not like either of them overstay their welcome.
Yeah, Persona is a bit of an investment, so I could see how you want that part of your life back.
A little bit, yeah. Oh, but to talk more about economics, because I don't understand exactly what's happening with this company.
Okay, so Index, the parent company of Atlas, is being investigated for fraud. Basically, they were moving around things, pretending like they were doing business, but
they were bad boys.
A bunch of people were resigned. Maybe some people are going to jail, and also they're in debt. Not because of Atlas. Atlas is profitable, but
somebody is probably going to get a spanking too. I'm not going to say who. It's going to be me.
Okay.
Yes.
It sounded more like a request.
Yes, Japan's legal system is really big on spankings. That's what they're known for.
Okay.
The question is whether or not you take the strap or the paddle. Sometimes they give you a choice.
Oh, what was that?
Austin's all about the bare-handed spankings, though.
Don't bring me into this.
It's too late. You're a part of this, Austin. The train has left the station. We're gone. That's it. Say goodbye to your friends and family.
Oh my goodness. What do you guys? I mean, what is there confusion about this, Leon? I mean, you just kind of
I'm shuffling my way into this story. You know me. Yeah. I mean, so long as if the games still are still made. You know, the intellectual properties are sold to people who still want to make them. I guess it doesn't matter that much, but whenever there's sort of a change in the people controlling things, there's always a possibility of quality changing.
No, that's fine. There's always things to be worried about. You know.
Yeah, like if, say, I don't know, some space strategy games got handed off to companies that had no fucking business putting their hands in your fucking real-time strategy in space because they've never made an RTS game before, Gearbox.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an example.
It was intense. I guess we're switching gears here. That's an excellent segue.
No. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay.
I'll be all right. I'm just, drawing a parallel.
Johnny, did you want to update people on Homeworld in case they haven't been paying attention?
Well, just that, Gearbox is supposedly going to be releasing HD remakes of Homeworld 1 and 2 on Steam, but, apparently the classic versions are going to be available as well, but I'm just kind of like, really, Gearbox? Like, okay. I still, it irks me.
Gearbox is a confusing company. I mean, that's all I can really say about them. And having never played Homeworld, but what the fuck is this game called?
Homeworld.
Homeworld.
Real-time strategy, takes place in space. It's like, you get all three axes of movement, so you can move ships up and down and left and right and forward and back.
Wow,
so
those are all the directions.
I know.
That sounds really innovative.
It was for its time.
Okay. Well, no, I'm sure that sounds cool, and I'll and now that I'm sort of moving towards PC a little bit more than I used to, I may have to check that out.
Come to me, Leon.
I
will show you the way.
I'll make a big speech about that when it's time to talk about my games, but yeah, that seems to be the way things are going, at least with me.
I'm in semi-related news. I was happy to hear that Atari sold off Star Control to Stardock. Imagine that, a strategy franchise going to a company that knows how to make strategy games. Fucking revelation.
It's like the first block of news for our listeners. Things going to companies and what we think about that.
Yeah.
Is that the only one that we are positive on there?
So far, that's the only one I can think of that I'm happy about. That I'm like, wow, they might actually do something good with that.
Because me and Sean, when we recorded the Index Atlas thing, basically it came down to we just arguing whether Nintendo or Sony should buy Atlas, and that's fun to think about, but we don't really have any facts to go on there. I think at this point it's mostly just waiting. It's just waiting,
crossing their fingers and hoping that the right person makes the right bid.
How could Nintendo make Catherine 2?
Well, they're making Bayonetta 2.
Well, they're not making Bayonetta 2. They're facilitating Bayonetta 2.
They're putting money into it.
Yeah,
a little bit, I guess so. But all right, fair enough.
So,
wouldn't that weird you out if they totally put their Nintendo stink all over that? Just smeared a big gob of Nintendo on Bayonetta, and nobody knew until the game dropped, and everybody was like, "What the hell did you do?"
Oh my god! Now I want Catherine too, but instead of Catherine and Catherine, it's Daisy and Peach. Same box art. They just Photoshop their heads onto them.
That is disgusting, and I really want to play it too.
Instead of Vincent, it's Waluigi.
Oh.
You're a disturbed individual, Austin. Do you know that?
But they need to have a more appropriate thing than climbing the boxes. What would the mini game that actually makes up the bulk of it be? I'm trying to remember.
It's vaguely like Donkey Kong, going up. That's my whole argument there. Going up.
Going up.
That's all I got.
That's gotta take forever to Photoshop.
Not gonna do it. Just all right. Edit it out of the podcast. Don't need it.
All right. So what else is happening, guys?
Let's talk about dicks getting cut off. Oh, that's video game related. I'm not just.
He totally left you hanging.
Right.
Big block of awkward silence there.
Yeah.
What my esteemed cohort is referring to, for those of you not in the know, particularly I guess those of you who don't play PC games very often, is that there's an MMO out there called the...
It's happening. It's happening.
Sorry?
You're a robot, Johnny. Say something robot-y.
Come with me if you want to live.
You did it, thing.
I'm sorry, Dave. I just can't do that.
I think you're better now.
Oh, all right.
Now it's like purposefully trolling us.
Skype has learned that you like it. So, for those not in the know, there is an MMO out there called Age of Wushu. And Age of Wushu is introducing a new mechanism that puts players' wangs in danger. And before you make the correlation that Age of Wushu is being an Oriental-themed game, when I say wangs in danger, I don't mean I don't mean characters named Wang. I mean characters named Wang's penises, and indeed all other penises in Age of Wushu. There's going to be a clan known as the Rootless Clan that's players are going to be able to join if they're willing to pay the price, which is to have your bits cut off. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work, because it also seems to intimate that you can assault other players and cut their bits off.
But
So
what it says is, and maybe I read it wrong, but it says if the ball cutters come after you, and basically there's a big team of eunuchs, and the eunuchs come after you, and they can attack your stuff, and sometimes your stuff will get pulled off or ripped off or cut off or something. But afterwards, you can join them, which is really the worst possible way to advertise yourself. They're like, they want more people in their clan, so once they come and remove your genitals, you can join their clan and cut off more people's genitals.
I guess misery does love company, though.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like, yeah, you kind of ruined me pretty badly, but now I've got nothing else, so I guess we're sort of in this together. Let's make more people who are Ken dolls.
Well, I want to be clear here, guys. Castration isn't cutting off the penis, right? It's
a ball thing. I believe.
Yeah, it's a testicular operation, I believe.
Mm.
So, just
I don't know how graphic. I mean, I don't know if the graphics are going to be good enough in this game to properly show that.
No,
I want screen space ambient occlusion castration.
Right.
I want high textures, high res textures, high poly count. I want I want reflective surfaces. I want some serious high res ball chopping.
The wrinkle physics are great.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I just wanted to jump in there because we kept saying penis, and I don't think that's what castration is. Because actually, as Gabe notes in his news write-up of it, this is actually, I guess, historically accurate in a sense. Because
okay. So they're not just wailing at them with stuff and chopping off just about anything. It's going to be very centered towards the scrotum.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have one particular question about this development. Do they not know what the internet is going to do with this?
I'm sorry, you only have one question about this?
No, I mean, there's a bunch of them, but the one that stands at the forefront of my mind is, like, honestly, you're going to put this kind of power into the hands of the internet?
Man, this is going to make the game so popular. Because I mean, let's face it, I mean, guys like me, I never even would have heard of Age of Wushu before I heard about how they deal with scrotum. I almost want to play it just to see what happens to my junk. But I mean, I'm not going to because I have other things to do with my time that are not ball related. But still, this is the most interested I've ever been in playing an MMO right now because at least it's different.
I mean, what's Guild Wars' stance on testicles? We don't know.
No, I guess we don't.
Are other MMO companies going to have to come out and say, follow suit and say, well, we've decided to go the ball route too, and then another one will say, no, we're going to stick with Warcraft Classic and not add the expansion pack that relates to scrotums.
Are you intimating that you think this might trigger a basically genital mutilation race in MMOs?
Yes, that is exactly what I was trying to say.
All right,
In
Final
those
Fantasy
words.
XIV, you heard it here first. Get on this. I'm absolutely certain that if Final Fantasy XIV wants to start pulling in more subscriber numbers, they're probably going to have some form of ball mutilation. Because as far as I understand it, that would be basically a step up from what Final Fantasy XIV is currently doing to your balls.
Oh, man. After last week, I don't know how much more we should rag on Final Fantasy XIV without playing it.
Oh, I'm done. That was it, basically. You know, I saw the window, I opened the window, I climbed through the window, I teabagged Final Fantasy XIV. And I'm keeping my balls. I better be, anyways. Yeah, I don't know if there's really anything else to say on that.
How much more would you want to say on that?
I would be curious to have been in the
pitch
boardroom.
meeting.
Yeah, during the pitch for that. That probably would have been difficult to take seriously when someone was like laying out their plan. No, hear me out, Greg. I propose we allow players to take each other's balls.
I'm sure actually how that came about is probably someone was, they have people on staff who do like the research and the lore and stuff, and someone was probably just looking through Chinese history and literature, and they're just like, there's a lot of eunuchs up in this bitch.
Okay, but even still, so the pitch starts a little bit more sensibly. Okay. So as we all know, there are tons of eunuchs, right? Like, you sitting in that chair, it's like, oh god, I know where this is going.
Frank, let me stop you there.
Yeah. Hang on just a second here, okay? Why don't we move on, lest we linger on balls for a little too long. Do we want to talk about the Ouya?
I don't know if I want to talk about the Ouya. Maybe just a second?
It's doing some weird things. Like, did we mention the Kickstarter, the $1 million Kickstarter for the Ouya?
No, I don't think we did on the show.
No. Well, the company responsible for making the Ouya has decided to start basically a Kickstarter fund of $1 million that they are going to use to help indie studios start to develop games. The kicker, though, is that it's going to require you to release your game on the Ouya exclusively, I think for a period of 6 months or so. Yeah, 6 months. So, I guess if you want to make a game that badly, it might be a good place to go. But there's been some other news that's kind of come out recently about the Ouya.
You're Robo.
Robo. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. Domo.
I think I'm going to edit all the Robos together at the end.
But it's not. What's the other Ouya news that I read recently? Because there were a bunch of people, like, sales are pretty
bad. Terrible.
Yeah, sales are pretty bad for the Ouya, and you know what? I'm not terribly surprised. I thought what they were talking about when the Ouya was being pitched originally, I was a little bit optimistic in terms of how it was supposed to revolutionize the gaming space.
Yeah, when the Ouya first was a thing, like when the Kickstarter was taking off, we were all pretty skeptical of it because it's essentially a phone that isn't portable.
Yeah.
And doesn't make calls. It's it's an Android device without any of the upsides of Android gaming.
Yeah.
But people seem to want it, and so we're like, if they raised $10 billion, I guess good for them. But now that it's out, nobody seems to want to make games or play games or do any Ouya-related stuff.
I'm kind of curious. I would be curious to see what their actual, what the sales figures for the console is, excluding people who kickstarted it.
The backers? Yeah, I can't imagine. If you wanted a Ouya, you probably backed it.
Because, you can, supposedly you can, walk into a Best Buy and be like, bring me an Ouya! And the guy might look at you a little weird, but they will do it.
Every store has, one dusty unit on a shelf somewhere.
Well, I don't think it's been out long enough for it to be dusty yet, but it's probably...
They came pre-dusted.
But, yeah, I'm not, I think the thing is that people basically bought it because of the things that it's not supposed to be doing legally.
It's an emulation device.
Pretty much. Yeah, I guess there's really not much else to say on the matter specifically.
I mean, the fund makes sense from their perspective. If you're the people who if you're the people who manufacture the Ouya, you want more exclusive games for it, and you're not going to get anybody to agree to a contract with you because it doesn't have the install base. So all you really can do is throw money at already successful Kickstarter projects and hope to get a window of exclusivity that will justify the existence of your console.
But looking at the game sales on the Ouya as a developer, I mean, like I guess you might.
It's almost an exposure thing. I know the guy who made Towerfall, which is like the most critically acclaimed Ouya exclusive. He made like $10, but enough people know about Towerfall because it's the best game on the Ouya that when it's going to be ported to PC and it'll make money there.
Yeah.
So I think you could use the Ouya as a platform to get exposure because it's a pretty open ecosystem.
And I guess funding is funding.
Yeah, and if you can stand out, if you're good enough, then maybe you'll make money on your PC port. I guess that's the plan. And the people who made the Ouya were able to pay their bills for like a year and a half off their fundraising drive. So I guess that's a success in a way.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's not exactly a failure in terms of the numbers, but I don't really see it having any lasting effect on the gaming landscape.
It didn't revolutionize shit.
Oh, optimism.
It's not even optimism. Everyone just wants to put up the headline that's like, this is the new thing, this is the future, but nothing's ever the future. The future is complicated and multifaceted, always.
I don't know. I think the Oculus Rift looks pretty futuristic.
The Oculus Rift will probably be part of the future, but it is not the future.
I am the future.
You will die someday, Johnny, and then you will be the past.
I'm gonna live forever, or die trying.
Like everyone else?
No.
Is Leon back? Because I want to hear what he's playing. Oh, no.
I don't think Leon's back yet.
He was eaten by a gru.
Well, that's what you get for not turning lights on, or building a fire, or playing Zork, or apparently Don't Starve.
Are they in there?
Apparently there are grus in Don't Starve, and if you don't make a fire when you go to sleep, you are eaten by a gru.
Are those public domain? Can you just put a gru in your game?
I don't really know. I mean, it's... Well, I guess one could easily ask the same thing about, like, any sort of folklorish monsters. I mean, Gru is pretty exclusive to Zork, but, I mean, you don't see J.R.R. Tolkien's estate getting all up in arms when people are like, he's an elf!
Well, elves existed before Lord of the Rings. So.
Fuck you, no, they didn't!
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I know they did.
What did you think? Here's another story that maybe Leon doesn't need to be in on. Did you hear about the what's it called?
Cheeseburger?
Yes, the cheeseburger. No.
Sorry.
The lawsuit right now going on in Europe over Steam and their whole thing. We touched on it way, way, way back when it started.
Yeah, a long time ago. I believe it's in Germany when basically German EU courts have clamped down and basically said that software companies do not retain the rights to tell people what they can and can't do with materials that they buy, and that actually extends to software licenses and things like that. I don't think it's full on lawsuit yet, but they are talking about how it seems as though Steam is going to be going to court over it. And you know what? I would not be surprised if Steam wound up doing this. But what's probably going to wind up happening is that they're probably going to do it in very much the same way they've been doing their trading card system, where you're allowed to put used copies of games up on a market somewhere, and that money goes directly back into your Steam wallet. I don't see them giving because there's nothing illegal about being like, well, you'll have to exchange it for store credit, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe, all the work that they've been doing on the marketplace recently is just a prelude to them basically making it so that you can, sell your game for dollars in your Steam wallet. Because I know there have been a lot of rumors kicking around, too, about there being code in Steam's, most recent beta of being able to lend people games out of your library. So... it looks like maybe Steam's finally crossing that bridge, albeit however slowly. It would probably be in their best interest to do it as well, I imagine. But, once people start selling used games on Steam, I'm sorry, but there's absolutely no excuse for why you're not gaming on PC.
Well, it's funny because
I mean, apart from, not being able to drop like $2,500 on a gaming rig, but my bad.
First world problems.
Yeah.
It's funny though because we talk about how Steam is like the world's leader in digital distribution, and they're blazing all these trails and stuff. And in this situation, you would think that they would try to be more stubborn about this, that they want to stick to what's working and what's making them so popular and lucrative. And I can't give them enough credit for even the small steps they appear to be taking in that direction, because I don't think they have to. I think they could be stubborn and try to monopolize all this and not give in. But it looks like
we have to acknowledge from top to bottom that Valve is a company of experimentation. Like, everybody is, like, we're so accustomed to this whole concept of the Steam sale now that people get irate when it doesn't happen. Like it was like the 6th of June, summer hadn't even officially begun yet, and people are like, "Where's my fucking Steam summer sale?" When really the whole summer sale thing comes from a series of experimentation. In the past, I've referenced this Tech Northwest panel that Gabe Newell did back in 2011, where he basically lays out the whole concept of the low price point as being an experiment. Where he was like, yeah, so, we took one of our games, we dropped the price some, and we looked at sales. So then we thought, hey, why don't we drop the price a little bit more? And they're basically capable of collecting all this economic data in real time, and it can essentially adjust all of their practices on the fly just by looking at what works. It may very well be that they're just going to be like, okay, yeah, we're going to let people, borrow games and lend games and things like that, and then let's see what that does to sales. Because, you might be able to, fucking, 30,000 people this week let their friends borrow a copy of this game, and then sales for this game fucking shot through the roof. The point that they're at right now, where we're kind of used to Steam doing things the way Steam does, the only reason why they got to that position was because they had the balls to actually experiment with economic models. So when it comes to when you say that, yeah, they could pull a hard line and they could fight for it and try and stand up to this whole concept of reselling or used games or some shit like that, that doesn't really speak to Steam's MO. They are they're always kind of in the process of shaking shit up. Even this whole, trading card thing that's going on right now, I've got some friends that are fucking going nuts over Steam trading cards. And just for a lark, during the summer sale, I got, a couple of doubles of cards and things like that. I put them up on the market for, 20 cents or, 15 cents a piece or something like that, and within hours they sell. They're just gone. And that's, granted, only cents in your wallet right there that you can contribute to your next game, but that's fucking 20 cents that you didn't have before, and who knows what some of the rarer foil cards go for. Because I'm serious, I'm absolutely serious, I know people that are fucking rabid for these trading cards now.
It's so funny to me because trading cards are something that are only valuable because of rarity and physical existence. The digital trading cards should not be a thing, and they totally fucking are. That's amazing.
It's the weirdest thing, and I mean, they have, you can trade fucking emoticons.
It's some deep psyche stuff going on here. This is some social engineering business going on right now. Yeah,
practically. But again, I'm going to drag it back to the statement that I have, where it's the only reason why Valve is doing this shit is because they're by nature an experimental company. And as far as letting people borrow digital copies of games and letting people fucking resell digital copies of games and shit like that, that's the next great experimentation. Can you make a system where that works? Because think about it. I mean, if Valve allows you to sell games, but then they take a cut of that sale, it's weird. It's weird and fucked up. But I see them trying for it. I can see it. I can see it happening.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to stick with it. I don't know if it's going to work out as well as they want. Maybe they're going to tweak it. But they're not a company that's content to maintain the status quo.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't say everything they do is perfect. I mean, Greenlight right now is kind of a mess.
Yeah.
But the fact is, everyone wants to be Valve, but no one's willing to do the things Valve does.
Speaking of Greenlight, everybody go to Greenlight and vote yes on Deadly Premonition for PC.
What is so broken with the publisher system that Deadly Premonition has to go through Greenlight?
That is an interesting question. Like, and it does beg the question too. Like, what sort of requirements does Valve have for a game to just be released on the store? You know, do they require a fee? Do they require a certification process? I imagine a certification process is probably somewhere in there because, I don't know, maybe Valve has been burned in the past with games being released that don't fucking work properly. But yeah, like, what is it that a game that's received like a major release on console can't just come to Steam and be like, yeah, we'd like to sell this game?
Damn you, the War Z!
Oh, no. You mean Survivor Infestation Stories.
Yeah, that thing. That's why we can't have nice things. But yeah, I mean, Origin would never do trading cards. Origin would never let you trade in your games, or at least they wouldn't unless someone else did it first. And that's the difference. We've talked about it before. I think it just as recently as last week. They get all the awesome perks of being themselves because they take the risks.
Yeah, they pretty much get to do what they want because there's not as much on the line as there would be with, you know, a larger company that has like shareholders and boards of trustees and all that fucking shit.
Yep. And digital distribution is something that is as accepted as it is. It still has room to grow and change. We'll probably see new legislation and all kinds of things coming out in the next decade.
I dread the fucking day when government catches up to fucking digital distribution. And it's like, there should be laws, because there really shouldn't, so fuck off.
It's sad, though. I think the only reason that it's not more regulated is because people who write our laws don't know anything about these. It's like legislating in a completely different language to them. So
absolutely, it's true. And I mean, there've been a lot of services that kind of get culled to the wayside by the wayside internationally because the country that they live in will pass a law where they're just sort of like, and that's that. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we can't get Hulu in Canada, we can't get Pandora in Canada. When you hear about a really funny Saturday Night Live skit or something like that, and you go to YouTube and it's like, oh, YouTube doesn't have it. So you go to the NBC website and you like look at that one episode and it's like, oh, and there's the skit. Yeah, I can't even go to NBC.com and watch shows because of laws that are passed in the United States about like how content needs to be regulated in order to be available in a country.
Johnny, you think you have it bad? The internet is illegal in Florida.
I thought it was just computers. I thought it was computers that were illegal in Florida now.
Breaking the law.
You're such a rebel, Austin.
I know. That's my point, though. The people in charge of governments don't have anywhere near the knowledge base to be working with any of these technologies, and
but they have all the power to regulate that system of tubes,
whether or not they understand it. Yeah, it's pretty scary, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts when the flow of information is managed by people who can't even understand the medium through which it's transmitted.
To be fair, a lot of them can barely grasp the field they're in, so I don't know how much how much we should be expecting from these people.
Well, you know, it would be nice to have panels of experts.
It's almost like we should have people trained in these things who are available to impart their knowledge on our elected officials.
Wouldn't that be fucking fabulous if just you're like flicking around one day and then you get to like C-SPAN and it's like a panel of government individuals talking to YouTube personalities? I would laugh my ass off. It's like click and it's like, so these trolls then, tell me about them.
I would pay money to see like a congressional hearing where Gabe Newell and like even like what's his name? David Cage. Well, David Cage doesn't have the kind of high level publisher concerns. I was thinking like
Bobby Kotick.
Bobby Kotick's good. I was trying to think of the guy who does Ubisoft. What's his name?
Yves Guillemot.
Yeah, just them just screaming about internet regulation and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that would I would laugh my ass off. But, yeah, like it's kind of ridiculous that we don't actually we don't have these things, that we don't oh, I've got a new law to make up about the internet this week, honey. Don't you think you should ask somebody about the internet? No. It's a new kind of diaper, right?
So I think we should probably acknowledge that Leon once again had to go off to save Gotham.
It's the only reasonable explanation.
This is why he can never join us. Those
horrible things, listener, that didn't happen in your life today, it's because of that man. He saved you, and you don't even know. He's not the podcast host we deserve, but he's the one we need, or something, the opposite of that. Can you imagine, though, like his secret identity is just a mild-mannered school teacher, but in real life... In real life, he's Gabe Newell? If Leon was secretly Gabe Newell the whole time. That would be fantastic. If he's like, whatever, fucking PC gaming shit. To just get away from his day job, he comes on here and is like, Nintendo! I'm sad. I wanted to hear what games Leon was playing in the past 4 months. We'll hear from him in a year or two. Yeah, maybe. We miss you, Leon. What a cock tease. He just shows up and his ankles are exposed. Nice recall, Austin. Nice recall. What was that, like episode 2? That was episode 2, yeah. Oh, jeez. And then he just saunters off and leaves us into the sunset. Well, why don't we talk about video games then? What have you been playing? What have I been playing? I finished Tales of Grace's F, and I wasn't really going to talk about it too much because that's... Is that like one more than Tales of Grace's E? I think, actually, I don't know if we ever got the original Tales of Grace's. I think that was a Wii game. Why the F? I think it stands for... I don't know if it stands for anything explicit. Funky Town. You make life so hard, Johnny. I think it has to do with friendship, because that's a really big theme in the game, is friendship. So that's my guess. It's never explicitly stated, but the F version of the game is the PS3 port of the original Wii game that I don't think we ever got in America. But someone asked me, I'm trying to find where it is in the comments of the last episode, because I wasn't going to talk about Tales of Graces anymore because I touched it last time, but someone in the comments whose name is P Kingdom, their avatar is Joshua from The World Ends With You, they asked what my thoughts as I finished the game, because they really hated Asbel, the character. I think the cast and the plot is just it's an exercise in genre fiction. It is as basic and I don't want to say cliche because it has like a negative connotation. It just is what it is. It's like a kid who wants to be a knight and he grows up, and then there's an evil guy and he's evil and he wants to destroy the world because of reasons, and then they save the day. It's not a bad thing. I think that's what's going for. I mean, there's something to be said for kind of taking just like having an updated approach to a classic story. There's nothing wrong with classic stories. That's why they become classics. Yeah, I mean, if that's all that was being put out in the genre or in the medium, then I'd be like super pissed. But it's fine to every once in a while have like a nostalgic kind of retro throwback style, even if visually the game is not retro. It is, cell shaded HD and all that, but just kind of mechanically it's very basic. The characters, we talked about this last week. Taylor said he really liked Pascal, who I used as the picture for the last episode because she has a really derpy-ass face. Yeah, I mean, they're all pretty stock. There's the character Asbel. He wants to be a knight when he grows up, and he's kind of a dick, and he doesn't recognize that the love interest has a crush on him for the entire game, and it's, like, really frustrating because no one has ever acted like that in the history of life. Speaking of the picture for the last episode, could we just have a slow clap for the guy who said that he wasn't sure if he would buy Johnny's Wang because he's kind of tight on money and he's not sure if there would be enough content? Can we just I'm gonna slow clap that one. That joke just kept on giving. There was the whole comment thread. There was stuff on Twitter. It was amazing. You're gonna have a DLC dick loaded content. Yeah, we have some lofty DLC planned for Johnny's Wang. Of course I can't show you any of it right now because of laws. I don't think the game's gonna get past censors in England. No, in Australia definitely not. And all the trailers that I have filmed might not make it through England's new filter. There are some sites where you'll probably be able to upload those trailers, Johnny. Yeah, Tales of Grace's F. I didn't hate it, but Leon's back. He returned.
There was what looked like to be a catastrophic issue turned out to be not. So I'm here. I missed everything, I'm sure, but I will be here for a bit longer to make up for that.
We've just moved on from news stories. Austin was telling us that he's been playing Tales of Grace's F.
Oh, you have? What's it like?
New life into this conversation.
Oh man, I want to play that game so much. Is it good, or is it like?
Wait.
Really?
Apparently, the F stands for friendship.
Yes, awesome. Oh god, I want to play that game so much, especially now that I know that.
Oh my god, that could have not worked out any more perfectly.
Oh man. You don't understand. I like all I want to do is play a game where all the characters are on an airship that runs on the power of love. That's seriously all I want out of a JRPG. And the Tales games, they do that. So let me close some windows so that you don't hear sirens, and then I'll tell you what I've been playing. Just give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Well, are you done, Austin? Was that?
I played other things, but I want to let Leon get in here in case he has to go again, and then I'll finish.
All right. Okay.
Should I tell him that the airship doesn't run on the power of love?
No.
You do get an airship, and there is love.
Don't say a thing.
Sorry.
You miserable excuse for a human being. You would ruin his childlike illusion.
Now, how perfect was that, though?
I'm back.
Leon.
And we are glad. We are
good.
glad.
I'm gonna talk about the games I'm gonna buy soon, but I can also talk about one of the games I'm gonna buy soon is Tales of Grace of F. But I'm also playing games, and I can talk about them if you would like.
I would so much like that right now.
Enrapture me. Fill me with your joy.
Okay. Well, first thing I should mention is that a few days ago I went to an arcade. They still make those, and it wasn't like the arcade where you go to play Mortal Kombat or whatever it is people play now. It was like one of those Dave & Buster's arcades where you play and you get tickets and shit. And I got so many tickets, man. I got a new mug that you can like put in the freezer and make everything like slush. It's great. And the games I played, one was called Dark Escape. And what you do is it's a game that they say is in 4D, which means you put on 3D glasses, but also sounds and smells and like things happen inside the little booth where you play.
Smell-o-vision.
Yeah, I expected, since it said 4D, that I would be going back in time at some point. But no, it's mostly just a 3D game. It's really loud. And my wife and I, we shot zombies. I also played... Have you ever played the Android game Cut the Rope? It's like apparently super popular or something.
Is that the little frog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played the full screen version of that, basically. And they had that there. It's this gigantic screen where you do nothing except cut the rope. And I'm damn good at that game. That's where I got most of the tickets. I also played an arcade version of Frogger, which doesn't work like you'd think, because you think, you play Frogger, you play that on the Intellivision, so you just press up and down and left and right, and those are the basic directions that you would do. But in this arcade version of Frogger, which is not the real arcade version of Frogger, like the 80s thing, I don't know how you do it. There was one button, and I don't know how I could possibly play Frogger with that one button. So fuck that game. And, so that was my arcade experience. Now let me tell you about the console games that I've actually been playing that I could actually talk about in more depth. First, when I had to take a very, very long break from the podcast, I didn't really play much games for a bit. And then my wife said, you could use some more exercise. And I said, you're right. And then I played Just Dance 4. And we set up the Kinect, and because we have that. And I finally played a Kinect game, and it was Just Dance 4. And let me tell you something. I don't like dancing, but I'm good at it.
It's your curse.
No, not good at it like if I were to go to a club, I would be good at it there. But I am good at repetition. If Mega Man has taught me anything, it is that learning patterns, really basic patterns, can get you through any game. And that is all Just Dance 4 is. You just move your arms a little, and you do the thing that they show on the screen. And then, when you memorized it, you can just anticipate everything that's coming. And then you basically just jiggle around. And it's not like... And you know what? Here's the thing about Kinect. And maybe they're improve this with the Xbox One version, but it's not precise. If you kind of do what they say on the screen, you're going to be fine. So, you're going to pass just about anything just by flailing around. But I do try to do well, and apparently I have mad livin' la vida loca skills. So that was a game I played. I don't intend to play very many more Kinect games. I don't care for it too much, but it is good for exercise. I would rather do that than jog. Normally I would love to jog, but I live in Baltimore City now, where you don't want to go outside so much. That's where I grew up, and I'm back.
You don't have street cred?
I grew up there, but I grew up here, and now I'm back here. But I know I have no street cred to speak of. No,
I don't believe it.
I don't wear the gang colors. I just wear a white or black T-shirt, which apparently are not gang colors. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, no neutral colors in gangs. But no, it's good for my exercise. I don't like the fact that in order to buy an Xbox One, which I will not be buying, you have to buy the Kinect with it, which I guess is why it's going to be $500 fucking dollars. It's like, I feel like the Xbox One is like the opposite of the town from Footloose. Dancing is mandatory. So no, but anyway, I played Just Dance 4. Oh, and I also played Monday Night Combat. For anyone who has not played it, it's just military, funny, capture the flag. And it's fun. There's a PC version and an Xbox 360 version. I played the 360 version. My wife is like an expert at this game, knows the people who work there, and they give her like prizes to give away. So she knows all about this game, and I played. And she's better at it than me, but it's still fun. I enjoy shooting things. I'm not great at first-person shooters, but this is a third-person shooter, and I'm a bit better at it. So that's Monday Night Combat. Apparently, and I've never played Team Fortress 2, but it's apparently just like Team Fortress 2. So that's, if someone has not played Monday Night Combat, but has played the more popular Team Fortress 2, that's what it is. I also played BioShock 2, and it sure is BioShock. That's what I felt when I was playing this game. It feels like, sure, I'm not the first person to say this. I'm talking about this a few years after it was released, but it feels like it's just a really lengthy DLC for BioShock. Everything looks exactly the same. A lot of the moves are exactly the same. A lot of the weapons are exactly the same. Everything is exactly the same. The atmosphere is it's exactly the same. So if you played one, you've already experienced that atmosphere. You don't need any more of it. And if you've not played one, then you're experiencing the atmosphere with no context. You don't understand where you are because you haven't been told anything. And I'm playing this game for hours and hours, and I'm like, I kind of remember where I was the last game, but I don't remember enough. This just feels all disjointed. It just felt wrong. I felt like this game, it just treated me like a stupid child. You know, it's very easy. Even I didn't put it on easy, but it's very easy, just like the first one. But it felt like it lost something. This game. The first BioShock, people say, oh, this is like System Shock for dummies. Well, BioShock 2 is like BioShock 1 for dummies. It somehow went lower, and I wasn't feeling it. And after playing through this place for hours and hours, and I'm not sure exactly how far I got. I just said, I'm done. I've had enough. I already played this. Apparently BioShock Infinite is wildly different in both setting and everything. I watched someone play through the whole thing, so I get it. I feel like BioShock Infinite should have been BioShock 2. I feel like BioShock 2 should have been a really cool expansion pack. If they just made it the expansion pack, it would have made so much more sense, because if you have BioShock 1, you already know what happened. So you definitely are aware, and it would cost less, and you could justify it. But I don't feel it at all. So
I was going to say you wouldn't be the only one. I found BioShock 2 to be pretty derivative. It rode consistently on coattails. It did nothing really to further like the BioShock universe. You know, it shoehorned in. I didn't like the way it shoehorned in the villain. because, like, in Bioshock 1, you're going around, you're learning about all of these people, all of these important people in Rapture, and then in Bioshock 2, it's like, oh, by the way, there was this other really important woman in Rapture that you've never heard about until just now.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right, and some people may call me a hypocrite because I mentioned Mega Man earlier, and I sure do love Mega Man, and what I really love about Mega Man is that each game is pretty much the same. But here's the main difference. Mega Man requires a lot of... It has really intense gameplay, and when I'm playing Bioshock 2, I feel like I'm just slogging around solving really basic puzzles that aren't very intelligent, and I'm having really timid, lukewarm action sequences, because it's not a game that's meant to be like action-packed. It's not that kind of first-person shooter like a Call of Duty type game.
Its lure is largely artistic design and atmosphere, and one of the reasons why it succeeds so well is that it presents something that you don't get in a lot of other games, whereas, like, Mega Man banks entirely on the actual act of playing it, on it being this, like, balls hard, like, side-scroller. Like, it doesn't need to do anything else because that's enough to lure people to the game.
Yeah, and Bioshock 2, it's just... the atmosphere, it's if it's exactly the same, that they're not presenting me with anything else. When I played Bioshock 1, and I did an old Heart of Gaming episode about how I like Singularity better, but I did like Bioshock 1. And the main draw, was it just felt like they put a lot of care into this world. And in Bioshock 2, they just said, here's the world again. Here's the exact same thing. If you showed me Bioshock 1 and 2 side by side, unless I saw that drill coming out of the Big Daddy from first person, I wouldn't know the difference. And it plays exactly the same. So
one last thing I think worth noting is that Bioshock 1 is like Ken Levine's, artistic vision in Irrational Games. Bioshock 2 is 2K Marin and like 3 other studios' collaborative work attempting to capitalize on Ken Levine's vision. It's like not a unified artistic statement. It's just
and of course, the only other thing that 2K Marin is particularly famous for at this point in time is going to be their attempt at XCOM the Bureau, which I believe a lot of other people have accused of also being slightly derivative.
Yeah, so I think it might have to do with just the very basics of planning that game, just from the ground up, that it's flawed. We've touched on that before, that Bioshock 2 is a letdown, but another perspective helps.
I will say this, I do feel that the relationship between the protagonist and the daughter in Bioshock 2 was actually pretty decent.
That only happens like the last hour, though.
Yeah, I know.
So I didn't even get that far, so I can't even claim to have felt that kind of emotion, because if you don't, it's like I rarely walk out of movies, but a game lasts much longer, and if you don't wow me in the first couple acts, I'm not staying around for Act 3. Yeah. But a game that did capture me right away, and I continue to play it, and I have no doubt I will finish it, even if I have to look at through a walkthrough, because these games usually have puzzles that are beyond even me, a puzzle guy, and that is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. It is really good. It is a really good Zelda game. I am loving it because it is Zelda, and it's been a very long time since I played one, because the last couple of Zelda games that they made were for the DS. And
those weren't very good.
I don't know. Maybe I would have fun with them, but I didn't play portable games, and they released Skyward Sword a little while ago, and I bought it, but I was never in the right frame of mind to play it because something was always happening, and I kind of have to block out the world if I want to sit down and play through Hyrule. And I just sat down and started playing it about a week ago. I really like it. It is a beautiful game, and I don't mean beautiful like the graphics are great, because they're not. They're in standard definition. They're on the Wii. But it's a beautiful game in that Nintendo does very well with what they have, or had, I should say, with the Wii. They just use a lot of bright colors, and they make everything look nice, and they try really, really hard. Not everything is brown and gray like so many other games, and I appreciate that. I think Skyward Sword is a game where someone just walked into the room and said, "Pastels! Everyone, pastels!" And everyone said,
did he have an outrageous mustache?
Oh, God, so outrageous.
Fantastic.
and that was and that's what happened. I like this game, and one thing I've noticed while playing it is, and maybe this is a strange thing to think about, but have you noticed that? I'm going to talk about economics here for a second. When they're making these gigantic budget video games, and they have to hire 20, 30 voice actors for some of them. Sometimes it's only like a dozen. And some of them pay a lot and have to, cost a lot of money, like your Liam Neeson's or even your Nolan North probably makes a decent paycheck. I wonder how much of the game budget's percentage goes into voice acting. And maybe Nintendo knows it's a fair amount, and that's why all of their characters don't talk. And even the characters who have a lot of dialogue, you're just reading it. I mean, when they give a game to some other company and they make Metroid Other M, then yeah, you hear some voice acting. But when it's time to make Mario and it's time to make Zelda, you just get a guy to say "It's a me" and "ah," and those are the two sounds that Mario and Zelda respectively make, and that's your game.
I wouldn't say it's a budgeting thing. I think there's a couple of reasons for it. First of all, it makes localization easier because you don't have to re-record a bunch of lines and match the lip flaps both times, which is a pain in the ass. Also, it makes it more kind of like timeless. It's just kind of like the archetypical story of the Mario and the Link. You don't really need to give them distinct voices and personalities. They're kind of blank slates to project yourself on anyway, so you don't want their voice clashing with that. Also, it's just really cute when they do like the Animal Crossing babble talk.
Oh god, I love Animal Crossing.
It's like that was the best. Do that again.
I think you really nailed it on the head, Austin, with the second point about it being timeless. I think that it especially matches like the way Nintendo goes about making their games. Like I feel like the more they would define their characters by giving them like voices and identities and people would go from game to game and you'd get like a different voice actor or something like that people would probably react really badly to that.
Oh yeah, I mean look at Metal Gear. They're catching all kinds of flack for replacing David Hayter. And it's like, why even put yourself through that if your game isn't even focused on characters and story to begin with?
I know. When they sit down and design a Zelda game or a Mario game or something like that, they're not like, okay, where did we last leave Link?
Oh, that would be hysterical if they actually did that. If they were like cliffhangers.
It depends. Some properties lend themselves to that kind of storytelling. Others don't. Nintendo
the
interested in that.
Metroid games are actually pretty pretty linear. There's not a whole lot of like, oh well, let's travel back in time and then forward and then back and here and that. But some others not so much.
One thing, I'll just say a couple more things about Skyward Sword, and that'll be the last game I played recently. One thing is, I know a lot of people complained about Wii Motion Control Plus and how that makes the game more difficult to play. I freely admit that learning how to use the bird took me a solid 5 minutes, which is more than you would want. But after I did,
is this the bird that you flip?
The bird that you jump onto this big red bird and you fly it around. And it took me a few minutes, but now it's fine. And then I guess everyone's saying, well, I don't want to have to swing my hand to swing the sword. I was like, look, I'm not in great shape, but I can flick my wrist slightly. It's really not a big deal. I kind of would prefer it if it didn't have the motion controls, maybe, but it changes so little about the game to me, personally. Another thing I'll say is, I kind of want, and I know they're not gonna, but at some point, aren't we gonna get a Zelda game starring Zelda? And I'm not just saying that as sort of a progressive feminist statement. I mean, this seems like a really good place to branch off and make a side sequel and cash in on that. I mean, you could just call it The Adventure of Zelda, and that would be her game, and you'd run around and you'd slash things with swords with her, and you could have a couple Zelda games instead. I mean, they just started doing it with Luigi.
Have you ever heard of the CDI?
I know that, but that wasn't even Nintendo.
I know.
Austin, didn't Nintendo a couple of months ago? Didn't we talk about Nintendo? Didn't they speak about
Yeah. Specifically, we had the conversation on the podcast before. Someone asked, I believe Miyamoto, if Nintendo would ever think about having more female protagonists or like gay protagonists, and they said that if it informs the gameplay in a way that makes sense, they would consider it. And to me, that was not a very good answer because nothing about the way that Zelda works now involves Link's genitals in any meaningful capacity.
Except for that one scene in Ocarina of Time. With the chicken? You guys know the one I'm talking about.
I don't. It's been a long time since I played that. You have to explain.
He's making it up.
I'm making it up.
I was hoping there was. I was hoping there was some sort of chicken fucking scene. You really got my hopes up there.
I'm sorry.
Okay, but no, I.
Have you seen? Me and Sean actually did a feature on this because there was some really cool concept art for a game starring Zelda that a comic artist actually did, and I was basically saying that I want that more than I want a new Link one. Yeah,
I mean, I love playing as Link, but really, I think, I mean, and just purely in terms of money, there's like this whole other character, and why not make a new game? I mean, like I said, they just did this with Luigi. Luigi had just like 3 games or something recently.
It's the year of Luigi. They had Mario and Luigi Dream Team, Super Luigi U, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. So,
and you know what? I when what was it? Was it E3 or was it? I can't remember. It was one of the big game shows. And they everyone was showing off their new games. And the new Mario for the Wii U was shown, and apparently it's going to have Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Peach.
Yep.
And someone said something like, I can't remember who it was, but someone said something like, Nintendo has the only game where you can play as a female protagonist from that was just shown at this show. And I sat there like, how is Nintendo like the most super modern company there is that will actually have a female protagonist? Why is everyone else so scared? And then I thought, wait a minute, no, they did that with Mario too. They broke the mold with that and Metroid. It's almost like why does fucking Rockstar say no 3 male protagonists for Grand Theft Auto 5, and it takes Nintendo to say no, Peach too.
Leon, you were mentioning earlier that you're becoming more and more a PC gamer these days?
Here's the issue, and it's entirely budget related and convenience related. Here's what's going on. The Xbox One is going to cost me $500 to buy, and even after a price cut to make it $450 or $400, I'm not buying it. There's just no way I'm buying this thing. I'm not buying a giant hulking machine when I already have a PC. And I'm not buying, and all the things they're trying to sell me on this thing, saying, ooh, it has Skype. That's free. You can't sell me on Skype. And I don't want the Kinect, really. I mean, I did have fun dancing a little for a second, but it was really just an exercise thing. I don't want that either. Nothing you're selling me on this system is something I want. And don't tell me, like, you can turn it on not by a remote. You use sound. It's like, that's the clapper. We've had that for a while. There's nothing about this that I can see justifying that kind of expense. So I said, okay, I'm not buying the Xbox One. So then so I'm looking at PS4, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's maybe a little more in my price range. Maybe when they cut the price in half, I'll think about it. But geez, I already have a PC, and most of the games that come out on PS4 that I want to play are going to be the sort of like cross-platform games that eventually makes it to PC. So I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm buying a PS4 or an Xbox One for the foreseeable future. Maybe not ever. So I said, okay, well, I have my PC for games like that, and Steam is just super cheap right now. And my wife, one of the great things I got in the marriage, besides love forever, was a great controller that I can hook into the PC. Obviously, a very close second. And that's kind of where I am right now. It's like you can't give me a dedicated gaming system if almost everything I can do with that I already can do on the PC. So I'm looking at what I'm going to do in the near future and long term in terms of my gaming habits, because I have to sort of work on a very strict budget. And so here's my plan. I'm going to play Skyward Sword, and when I'm done with that, this November when GameStop has their big Black Friday sale. I'm going to get 6 games for super cheap used, and I'm going to play the fuck out of them until I'm just done with them. And then I'm just done with the current console generations. And what I'm going to do after that is I'll have a PC, and I'm going to get a 3DS and kind of finally get into portable gaming because it's so much cheaper. And there's all these games from the DS and 3DS because apparently it's backwards compatible that I always wanted to play.
The 3DS is so fucking good.
I know. Everyone keeps saying it's like, oh, the 3DS it's good and it's getting better, and they cut the price and you can get one now. I'm like, yeah, and there's all those DS games that I missed that I could now play. So there's just this huge gaming library in this tiny thing that I would like to get, and I can probably get one for cheap. And that's probably what I'm going to... So that's the plan for this year, and the 3DS is the plan for next year. Maybe one day I will get the Wii U, if only to play the next Zelda. But not even immediately. I have no immediate plans to even get a Wii U, even though it is comparatively inexpensive. And I appreciate that from Nintendo. But, yeah, just something about console gaming right now, home console gaming, anyway, is not tickling me. All these companies, and not so much Nintendo, although they're slightly part of it, but in terms of Sony and Microsoft, they've created this system where gaming is a luxury now. Gaming used to be cheap, and I don't just mean if you look back at the prices for old consoles, even adjusting for inflation, they're still pretty cheap. I saw this. I watched this old console commercial. And it was it's for this Sega made it, and they were like, the Genesis only cost $149. Well, the Super Nintendo is so expensive at $199. I'm like, are you kidding me? I would love a video game system that costs $199. God, that would be so great. So yeah, just they're making it too expensive, and there are ways to make gaming less expensive for yourself. But Microsoft sure isn't helping by trying to ban used games. And I know they backpedaled and said, "Oh, backsies, guys, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that." Well, how do I trust you now? It's like when you're in a relationship and someone cheats on you. It's like the trust is gone. You can't go back to the way things were. They say they're going to patch the system so that those restrictions are no longer in on day one. And I was like, that's great. But if you can do that, can't you?
If you can patch it out, you can patch it back in again.
yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't mean to sound paranoid, but they made me paranoid. And I can't even if the Xbox One it were half the price at $250, which would be fine. Now there's this lingering fear that, and half the, I wouldn't say half, but many of the games I buy are used so I can afford them. Now I'm always going to be wondering when the other foot's going to drop. Like when they're going to, like 6 months to a year in, or they're going to say, nah, we got you now, and maybe that sounds paranoid, but they just did all this horrible shit. And the only reason they backed down from it wasn't a conscientious thing. It's just they were universally and unanimously hated for it by the critics, by fans, even by some people in the industry. I don't just mean the journalists. I mean people who make games are like, I'm not comfortable with this. I mean, they didn't all say that because some of them were probably very happy about it, but. No, I can't trust Microsoft anymore, and even the PS4, although apparently the PS4 costs the same as the PS3, so inflation doesn't happen for Sony, so that's almost a good thing, but it's still pretty expensive, so I can't imagine doing that. I have a PC here, and it's a gaming PC, that's why it makes so much noise, and it's really powerful, and we won't need to replace it for years, so I think I'm done with consoles for the time being. I got my Wii. I got my current generation consoles that I'll play through and just play the hell out of the next few games I'm going to get. And then I'm just done for the time being. Until they sort of get their act together, I mean, what are my other options here? The Ouya?
I don't think you're alone in feeling disillusioned by the next console generation, although I just went through GameStop recently, and funny story, I don't know how unanimous all this stuff is, because I feel like the average person on the street doesn't even know these things are happening. Like, we are very entrenched in the culture, but I was at a GameStop and there was two people talking to the clerk there, and they were asking if Call of Duty was Xbox One exclusive, which of course it's not.
No.
Call of Duty is coming to every console known to man, but if you watched Microsoft's conferences, they positioned Call of Duty as if it were, and Madden. They just kept saying Xbox One, Madden, Xbox One, Call of Duty, as if that meant anything. It doesn't. Those are coming to everything. Yeah. But if you say their names enough, people associate them, and if you're not, you're not in the scene, if you're not paying attention, I wouldn't even blame you for getting confused, because Microsoft's their message essentially was one of purposeful confusion.
Yeah, I'll be honest here. When I don't follow Call of Duty closely at all, because I just don't play those kinds of games. But when I watched the Microsoft press conference for where they unveiled the Xbox One, I had a lot of problems. But one of them was they said, we're making Call of Duty Ghosts. I'm like, oh, and in my head, yeah, I thought, oh, well, this is probably the new Call of Duty that they're making just for the Xbox One. They probably paid that company a lot of money for it. And then I looked it up on Wikipedia about 5 minutes later. I'm like, oh, no. And I did that, but a lot of people probably didn't, So yeah, I hated that press conference too. While I'm on the subject, yeah. They just spent all this time talking about the non-gaming part of it and the non-exclusive games that are going to come out with it, and that one exclusive game that's going to come out with it that it's like partly full motion video that you don't even know what it's supposed to be.
Quantum Break,
or what genre it is. Like, thanks for that. I want to return to full motion video, and I say that unironically. I kind of do, but you've shown me nothing with this. I don't want to wait for E3. You have to show me the games right away, or I'm not going to be excited at all. And I was not. So.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was almost hoping for the new Halo. It's like, dude, I don't even play Halo, but that's your franchise. Tell me you're making a new Halo and show me something. They showed us a non-gameplay teaser trailer for it at E3 later, but it's like that's your franchise, and you kept promising all these new franchises too, but you barely showed that, and I don't know. It's just. Microsoft, I have nothing good to say about them right now, and Sony, although wisely not doing anything too evil, is still not going to be getting my dollar.
Nope. Jump ship to 3DS. That's where the party's at.
I guess so. I'm going to be playing that Fire Emblem shit.
Oh, Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem.
Oh, I love. You know what? Animal Crossing for the GameCube was the game that got me back into gaming. And if I can just play Animal Crossing again, I don't care if it's on a small screen. I'll get the XL 3DS.
Dude, I just traded in my 3DS for an XL. Best decision of my life.
I'm getting it. Yeah, next year. Not right now, because I still have a few games left on the current console generations. Mostly JRPGs and Suda51's next game that's coming out. I have to play that.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I'm pretty much done. I'm making some switches here.
I think I'm going to be so bold as to say the 3DS, and specifically the XL, is my favorite console of all time. And that sounds premature. It's only been on the market for 2 years. It still has plenty of time to go. But the DS already has one of the biggest library of quality games, and it's fucking backwards compatible. It starts with a huge leg up on the competition. And then on top of that, you got Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, Kid Icarus, Luigi's Mansion, Shin Megami Tensei, Professor Layton, Ace Attorney, Mario, Zelda, Kingdom Hearts, Rayman, all the Tales games, Cave Story, Pushmo, Crashmo, Harmonite, Liberation Maiden, Sonic. I could be here all day, guys.
Guys, you have no idea how much I've always wanted to play Professor Layton. But because I just say, buying a new portable system, that's going to be an expense. Now it's like buying a new portable system is the most economic, makes the most sense for my budget. So now I'm like, I'm going to have to play those games. I like puzzles.
I wasn't even halfway done, guys. It was Paper Mario. Okay. I could deal with this all day. That's just 3DS, and of course it has the huge, voluminous DS library on top of it. It's just a disgusting value.
Yeah.
I'll cut myself off there, though. I just get really excited about it. It's the greatest system.
I'm going for it.
Although, of course, PC has 30 years of gaming or some stupid supported shit. I don't know about that, Johnny. Yeah. You're the expert there.
It does pretty well on backwards compatibility.
Okay. So that's all you played, Leon?
Yeah, those are my games.
Those 12 games?
It was 7, but yeah, I played a bunch of games, and I'm enjoying myself as a gamer again. I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore gamer still at this point, but I'm not a casual gamer either. I'm somewhere in the medium where I play every other day for a solid hour at most, and that's good for me.
Did you want me to say anything about Tales of Graces before moving on to the next game I played?
Don't tell you what. Don't spoil anything for me, because I avoid JRPG spoilers like crazy, because those games are half story for me. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I talked about it last week, and I talked about it a little this week. It's a Tales game, it's as Tales as it comes, which is to say, it's an exercise in genre fiction. You're not going to be like super blown away by it, but it's really good looking. And if you're looking for all those JRPG tropes that you grew up with, they're going to be there. So,
God, I want those JRPG tropes so much, man. And they're making Tales of Xillia. So
that comes out on.
Yeah,
something.
It'll come out before I make my big GameStop run in late November, and they're bringing the second one, Tales of Xillia 2, to well, I guess I'll keep my old consoles around just for that, because I do love my Tales.
I think Xillia is the highest rated, or at least the Famitsu review of in Tales history, so it's supposed to be good.
Cool.
Yeah. So I finished Graces. I also played. Here's another game, Leon. This is a perfect week for you to be here. I in one sitting beat Kirby's Return to Dreamland for the Wii. Oh my God. Kirby is the fucking best.
Oh, that's a game I should probably play at some point.
Kirby is so
how
good.
Is it?
It's perfect. It's amazing. Why would you ever not be playing Kirby? What is even the point of playing anything that isn't Kirby?
Oh.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I know some people were saying that it's a little too traditional, but it's like we haven't had one of those Kirby games in like 10 years, because all the intervening games have been like Canvas Curse and
the Yarn one?
Matt's Attack, yeah, and Kirby's Epic Yarn. We haven't had a walk from left to right, suck up people, take their powers game since the N64. So it's the perfect time for this style to come back. It's adorable. I think being cute is a legitimate selling point. People ask, what's the appeal of Animal Crossing? It's fucking adorable is the appeal of Animal Crossing, guys. Yep. And same thing with Kirby. That's a legitimate point in its favor. It's as uncritical as that sounds. It's just super cute.
It's hard to give a score based on something that warms your heart, but it exists. It's a thing.
We've discussed last couple of weeks, Johnny is really kawaii. I would give him a 10 out of 10 on the kawaii scale.
That's me.
But Kirby is pretty much the best. The only real criticism you could have of it is that it's too easy. But I mean, Kirby isn't about difficulty. It's like the kind of game kids play to get into gaming. Not everything needs to be Dark Souls, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
Leon, do you want everything to be Dark Souls?
I want to play Dark Souls, but I don't want everything to be Dark Souls now.
I think there's room in the industry for every level of difficulty, and I think just Kirby's at the bottom, and it's perfect at what it's trying to do, which is be a accessible romp through a land based on food. There's Cookie Country, and there's Onion Ocean, and there's all these adorable little monsters to eat and absorb their souls for all eternity. I don't know actually how that process works. But yeah, I mean, Kirby, I've said this before, I think Kirby is the most consistently good brand in the entire industry. I can't think of anything that is just always, as over such a long time period, been outstanding.
I wasn't overly impressed with Kirby's Epic Yarn, but I still had that heartwarming feeling. So it won me over there.
It's pretty darn adorable.
Yeah.
What else? I played one last game. Yakuza 4, or Yakuza, I don't know how you want to pronounce that. Have you guys heard of this series?
I know of it by reputation.
I only know about it because the people on the, I don't know if you've ever seen the video podcast NoobTube, but that was they worshipped that game. That's the only reason I know about that game.
Really? I've never heard of that. But, I mean, how Yakuza was always pitched to me is it's the Japanese Grand Theft Auto. And that it kind of is in the sense that it's an open-world crime game, but it's very different in a lot of other aspects. There's no cars. There's no driving whatsoever, probably because of the way that Tokyo is actually designed. Just it's not a lot of driving area inside of the city where it takes place. Also, it's really, really melee-focused. I guess because of Japanese gun law restrictions. There's not a lot of firearms. Like when a gun shows up, it's a plot point. Like people are like, how'd you get a gun? So it's a pretty big deal when there are guns. So almost everything is brawling. So it turns into essentially like Grand Theft Golden Axe. You're just punching everyone. I wasn't super hot on the combat. It's pretty button mashy. It's pretty stiff, awkward. I didn't really like it. But the story and the characters, the atmosphere, just everything else about it is fantastic. I actually read some stuff up on it. Apparently they had actual Yakuza review the game, and they thought it was pretty authentic.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
First, since there's no cars, does everyone pull each other around with rickshaws? and 2, was it racist for me to say that?
No, if you go to the edge of the map, you can get in a taxi to take you to another like corner of the city, but there are no like cars like driving through it. So no, there's no rickshaws.
Well, why the hell not?
Are we confusing Tokyo for like rural China? Because
I don't
yes,
know.
Deliberately.
That's why it's racist.
No, Tokyo is super advanced. It takes place, I think, in 2010. So it's all skyscrapers and neon. And oh my gosh, the detail! Like I've never been to this district where this game takes place, but I have to imagine it is super fucking meticulously researched. Like everything from the graffiti and the posters to the shops. Like there's all like product placement. Like you can just wander into a bar and like order like actual brand name liquor. Like almost every building worth going into, you can go into and interact.
You can order a Budweiser?
I don't know Budweiser. You can get a Jack Daniels. That's the only one I recognized, but it's in the game.
All right.
You can just go to the batting cages. You can go to an arcade. You can go to a hostess club. You can go to there's like 1,000 like things to just do as if it's a real city. That's the problem people always have with Grand Theft Auto is like, you want to go bowling with Roman? Like otherwise, go shoot dudes. Like that's it. But like.
Because if I could go into a bar and order a Budweiser and Yakuza, then I would probably slap the bartender.
There's a lot of slapping. But no, I think the appeal of the game is just the texture of the city, just wandering around and just being like, oh my god, there's so much stuff to do.
It adds a lot of value to a game when it actually like does its best to fucking like paint a real world like that, you know?
Like the Assassin's Creed games are famous for recreating historical points in time, but you can't do anything there.
Yeah.
You can climb the monuments, but none of that stuff is interactive, really. So, but here's the thing. If you just took the story and stuff on its own merits, this would be one of those games where I'd be like, oh, this really should have been a movie. You know, like I always say that about Uncharted, is like the gameplay is more or less so bog standard that I would have rather just watched it.
Yeah.
Yakuza would be that, because it's essentially just like a crime drama with boring punching gameplay. But it's the all that city stuff adds so much flavor and atmosphere that it just wouldn't work as a film. You wouldn't get the same.
Yeah, the delight that you get from actually participating in the universe, not necessarily the plot, is something exclusive to video games.
Yeah, exactly. And the plot, though, I have to say, like, it's super complicated. There are a lot of twists. There are like 35 like rounded characters to keep track of, and all of their names are like impossible to pronounce for my Western brain. But it was some gripping stuff. Like there are parts that if you think about it too hard, it falls apart. So I'm not gonna like put it on a pedestal. But it was in some engaging gangster drama. Like there was feelings, there was emotions, and there was performances. Like you know how I talked about The Last of Us, how the motion capture was like industry new bar. And I mean, yes, it's much better than Yakuza. But there are performances in this game where people they fill a room with their presence. You know what I'm saying? Just how they talk and move. You feel like...
What system did you play this on?
It's a PlayStation 3 exclusive.
Oh, all right.
But it's like Grand Theft Auto cutscenes, right? Someone walks into the room and they yell a bunch of obscenities and they flail around and then they walk out and go shoot people. Like, Yakuza will take 10 minutes to have, like, a Godfather style. Like, you come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding and, like, have a conversation, like, where you feel like there's, people talking about serious shit and at any moment someone could break out in violence, and it's some good stuff. So I'm glad I finally got around to playing this series, although you kind of do need some prior knowledge of the previous games. Like you get enough to make sense of it, but there are certainly returning characters that I don't know the backstory of this saga. And apparently the localizations and for the other games weren't so good, and a lot of the content was cut out. Like Americans wouldn't know how to play Mahjong, so they just cut that shit out of the old games. I don't know. This is like the first one apparently where they left all that stuff in. And some of it is a little skeevy, like the Hostess Club stuff. I don't know if you guys know about this.
It's a hooker thing, right?
It's sort of a hooker thing. My understanding in the way the game presents it is it's non-sexual. You basically pay a woman to pretend like she's interested and flirt with you. Like it's non-sexual. It's basically emotional prostitution.
Oh.
It's still presented
which is so much better.
It's still pretty skeevy. You like play.
It's adorable.
But apparently it's a real thing in Japan. So as part of the quest for verisimilitude, I don't hold it against them. I mean, the game, I guess, portrays it how it happens. So what do you want there? But here's what I hear, guys. Yakuza 5 came out in Japan last year. Okay. One of only 20 games to ever get a perfect score from Famitsu in its 30 years of existence.
Really?
So we still haven't got it. It's been a year. We still haven't got this game. I'm pretty pumped. I saw a trailer. Yusuf sent it to me. It shows a guy punching out a bear.
I'm in. Let's do it.
This bear just gets up in this guy's grill, and he wants none of it. It's pretty good. So I could do a whole spiel on this. I don't really know how much detail I should get into. It's legitimately good, mature drama. It has levity, and it has moments of silliness. It's a complete package, and I really can't think of who I wouldn't recommend this to, except maybe people who want an Arkham kind of combat system. If you just don't mind just punching dudes in the face for 10 hours, I guess. So
the story and the bear pretty much sell me on this game. I like a game that gets me into the world and actually has me care about what's going on. And I like bears. So everything you just said makes me think I should be playing this game at some point.
Bears are another selling point. They should make a game where Kirby teams up with a bear to fight crime.
Oh God! How are you entering into my dreams, Austin? How can you tell?
Oh jeez, Johnny.
Yo.
I know you didn't play anything as interesting as Yakuza, but I still want to hear.
Yeah, nothing I'm afraid that interesting. I'm still slogging my way through Brutal Legend.
Slogging. Being the operative word there.
Well, you see, I say slogging because I'll be honest with you, it's kind of dragging at this point in time. I've got, how many hours do I have in it? Give me a second here. I've got 10 hours logged into Brutal Legend right now, and I'm kind of getting to the point in time where I'm sort of I think I'm done with the side quests.
The story of playing Brutal Legend is the same for everyone. It's oh man, the opening's great, and then it's oh, that was a little weird, but I'm still having fun, and then it's I'm pretty much done with this.
I still enjoy it. I love the atmosphere. I love the voice acting. I even like the gameplay. I'm a big fan of the gameplay. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that it reminded me of this old Interplay game called Sacrifice, and I've never played a game like Sacrifice in my life. So, one, I'm so impressed that this game reminds me of it. Don't get me wrong. I still believe that Sacrifice is a better game, but yeah, there's something about the pacing of it. It seems like the upgrade system is really shoehorned in. And when you jam upgrades into a game and then have, side quests be the main way that you accrue the currency in order to buy the upgrades, you better damn well make sure that your fucking side quests are interesting. Or what you're gonna do is you're basically gonna force people who are moved to, play as much of the game as possible. People like myself. I'm by no means a completionist, but when you give me extra stuff to do, I'm gonna do it.
It's like Golden Saucer Syndrome, where it's the plot can wait, I have to breed these chocobos.
Yeah, exactly. And just, you can basically make it so that you bore your player. And despite the fact that when I enter into the story missions and I'm fucking flying around with my demon wings and, directing dudes and being, playing guitar solos and shit like that, I'm genuinely having fun playing this game. It's in between. I get so run down on playing this game that I'm just kind of another ambush.
I mean, you said you have 10 hours. You're past, the big mid-plot point. The big twist that where everything changes, basically, right?
I suppose, I guess, I think I know what you're talking about, unless there's a bigger twist later on.
No, I don't think there is. There's a part, there's the beginning of the game, which is pretty sweet, and then as it pushes the RTS stuff in, you're like, okay, and then it kind of, it hits its stride, and then there's a point where everything just kind of stops. And that's where I feel like most people get kind of lost. I think that's where maybe you are, because then there's really nothing of substance between that midpoint and the end.
Yeah.
Except for side quests and stuff. So.
Yeah, and I'm kind of reaching that point where I'm like, I'm kind of done with these side quest things. Like, I really don't feel like. Yeah, the side quests are making me think worse of the game than I actually do.
You know what really would have saved most of Brutal Legend is if Tim Curry got more screen time.
Yeah, I think that would save a lot of things.
You just have him show up in Final Fantasy 13.
Fucking, then I'd be like, Final Fantasy 13 has Tim Curry? It's amazing. 10 out of 10 game of the year.
Are you at the point in Brutal Legend where Jack Black stops becoming a relevant comedic actor?
I think I passed that point.
Oh, yeah.
Before I started playing the game.
Okay. I've never played the game. I just wanted to be a dick for a second there.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I think everybody's allowed to have opinions about Jack Black at this point in time. He tipped his hand.
What was the last good thing he was involved in that wasn't Tenacious D?
Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was 5 years ago.
Good call, Tropic Thunder. Oh man, now I'm going to IMDb because I'm curious if there's something that's shown up since then. So hear me, Google Internet. Kung Fu Panda. He was in Kung Fu Panda. The Kung Fu Panda movies were pretty good.
I wouldn't know. Apparently, there's a movie called Bernie he was in, and it was nominated for a lot of like Golden Globes and stuff. So maybe it's good, but I haven't seen it.
I keep seeing that on Netflix.
Yeah. I think it keeps popping up on my Netflix as well.
So,
wait a minute. Am I thinking of the right movie? I don't know.
And he's also in episodes of Drunk History, which is funny. No, you haven't seen Drunk History?
I have not.
They get comedians completely loaded,
mm-hmm.
and then have them try and retell an important part of American history. And then, like, film recreations of the history as they tell it, including, like lines and things like that. So they'll be like, a guy will be telling the story of, Abraham Lincoln's emancipation of the slaves. And he's like, and Abraham Lincoln, he read the manifesto and was like, nah, fuck that, man. Nah, that shit will not stand. And they'll have, like, an actor dressed up as Abraham Lincoln, like, reading the line, fuck that, man. That shit will not stand. It's pretty funny stuff.
I may have to watch it. I also have to go.
Oh, well.
I know.
Leon, thanks for joining us again. We missed it
course.
very much. We hope you'll come back and visit us again in the future.
Well, you do, like, rotating hosts or something now, so maybe in a month or two I'll drop by again.
Yeah, at your leisure, my sir.
Okay.
Man.
All right. Okay.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
I also got a chance to play a little bit of the alpha demo of Space Venture, which was the Kickstarted adventure game that the guys from Andromeda, the guys who made Space Quest, were responsible for.
Is it already in alpha?
Yeah, the alpha demo's out. It doesn't work that well. I've been having problems with it. I'm not sure if the interface is obtuse or if it's just, well, an alpha. But I haven't really had that much luck with it, to tell you the truth. I will say this, that as far as like a Kickstarted adventure game goes, it looks really good. In terms of its art style, because like a lot of the Kickstarted adventure games I've seen, like for example the Leisure Suit Larry Reloaded one, have gone for that more animated look, the more traditional kind of like paint and ink style, as opposed to Space Venture, which is using like 3D models. And I mean the art design is pretty good. Like it's kind of it's so obviously the Space Quest that they never really got to make, I guess, because this one's about, a space plumber as opposed to a space janitor. But I am kind of impressed with the visual style. I can't really speak to the plot because A, it is only a demo, and B, as I said, it's an alpha and it's not really working that well for me. So I'm looking forward to it though. I mean, I can tell that there's certainly that nugget of humor that the Space Quest games are particularly famous for. There's a lot of stuff that's not even, like, they don't have voices for it yet. They don't have keyboard hotkeys or like special hotkeys or something like that. It's in the Unity engine. But yeah, it's I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of weird actually. It's sort of strange how many Kickstarted games that I've done are starting to like show their faces. I got to look at Shadowrun Returns this week. Not the game, the editor. Excuse me. I get early access to the editor.
I have Shadowrun Returns.
Oh, really?
I'm embargoed. I can't say anything else.
Okay. You know I'm in it, right?
No, I know. You told me, but I was just remembering that you also were probably going to play it. It's embargoed to the 25th. So You're probably listening to this on the 23rd, so my review will probably be up in 2 days as when you're hearing this.
Yeah. So I got a chance to look at the editor for that, at least anyways, and I gotta say I'm looking forward to that as well. Yeah, I had a pretty slow week this week actually. I watched a lot of movies, but I didn't really get to play that many video games.
You should play Kirby's Return to Dreamland.
You know what? I would, but it comes for what system?
The Wii.
Yeah, I don't have one of those.
There's not a Kirby for the 3DS yet. If a Kirby comes out for the 3DS, I think we can just pretty much go ahead and call it. That's the...
Shut the door on that one?
It's the crown achievement of human civilization. I think we should just start a 3DS religion. have a little shrine in my...
You could technically, if you were playing Civ 5.
You should call your religion 3DS.
Oh yeah, and then it would be like, Vatican City wants 3DS.
Ask nicely, Pope. Or you get to that XL model where it looks like Pikachu has nipples. Have you seen that?
No, I have not. But,
there's a special edition 3DS XL, and the two cameras on the back of the top of the clamshell part of it.
It looks like Pikachu's rocking a couple of stiffies.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
That's kind of freaky. That weirds me out, man.
I went with the blue one. It's so weird there's no black XL. There's a regular 3DS that's in black, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Johnny.
Yo.
You want to end the podcast?
I guess it's time to go.
I knew Leon wasn't going to make it through the end.
Of course he's not going to make it through the end. When has Leon... It wouldn't be the same if he did.
He got close.
He did. But, I mean, like I said, if we're looking for some old-school Leon action, he has to leave early. That's just the way it is.
Well, if he stayed the whole time, wouldn't that be one of the last signs of the end of times that we've been looking forward to?
It might be. And, if you guys want to fight the end, if you want to fight it, go to Steam Greenlight and vote yes for Deadly Premonition, the director's cut.
Are you so gung-ho about this because you haven't played it yet?
I haven't played it yet, and it's the weirdest thing. At some point in time, I was like, you know what, I should really go onto YouTube and check out a Let's Play, because this seems like it's right up my alley, this game, And I watched, the first 5 minutes, and then I was like, okay, in my queue, I have to watch that later, but I never took it up again. And then it was like, now that I'm like, oh, well, it's coming to PC, I'm like, okay, this is happening.
That's interesting.
This is happening.
Because a lot of people talk about how Let's Plays are copyright infringement, or that you'll just watch a game and you won't play it, but it's really no substitute.
No, it's not. Not even the slightest. I find too that watching Let's Plays actually frustrates me way more than actually playing the game, because
go left, or I will choke your family.
Dude, it's over there. It's over. No, turn. Okay, fuck it. I'm skipping ahead 10 minutes.
Yeah. Video games.
So yeah, fight the apocalypse. Vote yes.
The only thing I think I've greenlit so far is Octodad.
There's a number of greenlit games that I've voted for that I mean, they've been greenlit, but they haven't necessarily been released yet. You know, like, what do we got here? Frozen End Zone, Dead State, Dreamfall, Riot, Death Inc., Homesick, Black Space. Yeah, there's a number of them. And then there's other ones that I don't understand at all. Ooh, the Stanley Parable. I understand that one, but yeah, Greenlight's kind of a problem. Just a bit.
I'd rather have it than not have it, but it certainly needs work.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
Now I have the Octodad song stuck in my head.
So awesome. I think you should play it as the outro.
I will.
I love you.
And there's a chef with them, and they're gonna make sushi out of the Octodad. Run for your life.